Hi there, I'm Carlo, the indie developer of a Mac app called Browser Actions that lets you automate your favorite browsers. In this video, I'll walk you through one set of the shortcuts actions the app provides and what you can do with them. Let's have a look. Get browser reference is a handy action when you're working with the frontmost browser in a longer workflow. Using the frontmost browser selection in any BA action will work fine if you can be sure that the frontmost app is one of the supported browsers. But if it's not, because your workflow has switched to another application, then targeting the frontmost browser in a BA action may fail. So what can you do? Basically, when you start your workflow, you'd use this action to turn the implicit frontmost browser placeholder into an explicit reference to a specific browser. Later, you can use this reference in any other BA action that asks for a browser parameter. The Get Menu Item action is a feature that helps you find a specific menu item in the browser without actually triggering it. It then returns a reference to that menu item, which can be used in other menu-related BA actions like Select Menu Item. If the specified menu item can't be found, the action can either cancel the workflow and raise an error, or it can silently return nothing. The latter is useful if you don't want the workflow to stop and just want to check if the menu item exists using an if block. There are several ways to look up a menu item. First, by title. You'd use that if you know the title and there's only one menu item with that title. This is the easiest method. You have also the option to look up menu items by a part of their name, by a substring. Second, by path. You can look it up by its path starting from the main menu. The segments are separated by angle brackets. For example, edit, angle bracket, autofill, angle bracket, contacts, ... And third, by segmented path. This involves traversing down the menu tree. For example, if you want to find the contacts, ... menu item in the autofill menu under the edit main menu, you'd use the segmented path like edit, autofill, contacts, ... The lookup itself is pretty forgiving. It trims any leading or trailing white space in segments and normalizes menu items ending in either an ellipses or 3 periods. So using either will work. If you know you want to trigger a particular menu item several times in your workflow, you'd get its reference using this action and then use that as input for select menu item, like in this very silly example. Is menu item enabled? This block checks if a menu item is active and enabled, returning a true, false, or yes, no value. It takes just one parameter, a menu item reference, like the one you got using the Get Menu Item action. Here I check if Safari's Start Dictation menu item is active. It clearly is not, and this is what the workflow would look like. The Run AppleScript action lets you run any AppleScript snippet within the context of your chosen browser. You just need to provide a browser reference and the actual AppleScript. The script will automatically be wrapped inside an AppleScript tell application your browser block. If you want to return something from your script, you can set the variable return_value, all uppercase, to a value. As long as that value can be JSON encoded, it will be returned as a JSON encoded string. The select menu item action looks for a specific menu item and clicks it. If that element is a menu or submenu, that will open it. If it's a menu item, that will trigger the related function. On success, it returns a menu item reference, which you can use in another browser action menu action. If it fails, for example, when it can't find the menu item, it raises an error. The targeting options for this action are consistent with those in the get menu item action. So please refer to that for details. It's also possible to target a menu item by reference, which means you can pass in a menu item reference that was returned by another browser actions block. The select menu item either or action in browser actions is a versatile tool designed to handle dynamic menu options. It allows you to specify two menu items and it will select the first one that's available. This feature is particularly useful for menus where the item names change based on the current UI state. Take, for example, the Show Status Bar and Hide Status Bar options in your browser's View menu. At any given moment, only one of these options is available. This action can effectively toggle between them, ensuring that the right function is triggered without error. If neither menu item is found, you have flexibility in handling the situation. The action can cancel the workflow and raise an error, or simply return nothing and continue. This silent return is useful if you prefer to manage the outcome later in the workflow. The targeting options for this action are consistent with those in the get menu item action I have shown earlier, so please refer to that. The simulate specific key action allows you to emulate pressing keys such as home, escape, return, backspace, the arrow keys, and many others. You can also combine these key presses with modifiers like Command, Option, Shift, Control, or Function. In other words, it can trigger keyboard shortcuts within the browser or activate features of browser extensions that rely solely on keyboard input. For instance, if you have a browser extension that responds to a combination like Command, Shift, Page Up, or if you are interacting with a web page that listens for specific key presses, this action provides a seamless way to automate those interactions. As a super simple demo, here's a workflow that jumps to the end of a page by simulating the end key. That's followed by a 2-second pause, and then it goes up the page by simulating the page up key. Simulate typing enables you to input text by mimicking keyboard typing in the active tab of your selected browser. This is particularly beneficial for automating text entry or simulating a sequence of hotkeys. You can combine this action with modifier keys such as Command, Option, Shift, or Control, allowing you to execute complex keyboard shortcuts. For example, typing ACV while the Command key is enabled translates to Command A, Command C, and Command V, effectively performing select all, copy, and paste operations, all in sequence. To prevent accidental execution of a long string of keyboard shortcuts, there's a safeguard feature called skip confirmation on long input text. By default, a confirmation prompt is triggered when the action is called if more than 5 characters are entered, with modifiers active, ensuring deliberate execution. Toggling this option on, you effectively disable this confirmation if you prefer a smoother workflow, though it comes with the risk of executing multiple keyboard shortcuts unintentionally. That's why I refer to that toggle as the foot gun mode enabler. Here I use the action together with its sibling, simulate specific key action, to trigger Command D for creating a bookmark, pressing Tab to go to the bookmark's title field, naming it My Fave App, and pressing Return to save the bookmark. Silly example? Sure. Good example? Yes.